I'm Zoe, and with me today is Justin Lannen. Justin, will you tell me a little bit about your role and the Maple Brown Abbott Global Listed Infrastructure Fund?
Thanks, Zoe. Well, as you know, I'm a portfolio manager with the Maple Brown Abbott Global Listed Infrastructure team. Our job is to manage portfolios of listed global infrastructure stocks for a global client list.
I'd love to get your insights on the water companies that sit within the infrastructure sector. What attracts you to these water companies?
Well, the water sector is one of the mega global themes that we've identified in the infrastructure sector. What attracts us to the water sector is that we can see a very large amount of capital needing to be invested, not just over the next few years, but for decades into the future. And why the water companies are spending that money is to improve service delivery of water, replace aging infrastructure, reducing leakage, that sort of thing, and also to better treat, using the infrastructure to better treat wastewater or sewage so that it has less of an environmental impact. So the water sector obviously is very low risk. There's no demand risk. It's typically a monopolistic asset, so no competition, substitution possible. And because it's monopoly, it's regulated. So we think that if we can understand the regulation and the rates of return coming from that regulation, that often incentivises the investments that the water companies need to make. We think that the water sector itself is a very attractive place to invest with low risk to us as equity investors in that sector.
So Justin, why do you have a particular interest in the UK water sector?
Well, I think the UK water sector is particularly interesting at the moment. It's part of the mega theme in that there's a lot of investment required in the UK water networks. These businesses are monopolistic and they earn a regulated rate of return because they're monopolies. So with the UK stocks in particular, they have just entered, or this is the first year of a 5-year price control period or regulatory period. So we have a lot of visibility on what the investments and returns will look like for the next 5 years. And we think we've got a pretty good idea beyond that 5 years of the investment required. So these are long-term investment themes. Now, with the UK water stocks, we like that they're inflation linked. They capture the inflation each year into their asset bases, so that protects us in real terms as an investor. And also the UK water sector is just coming out, we think, of a pretty troubled political period. Particularly, we've seen problems with a lot of the private or unlisted water companies that have overgeared themselves and not delivered their services as efficiently as they should have. But the listed companies like Severn Trent and United Utilities, we think are very well positioned and well capitalised to deliver on their investment plans and also get an attractive rate of return as they make these investments. In fact, one of our holdings, Severn Trent, we think that the asset base that they have can be grown at around 10% per annum for the next 5 years. In that way, the businesses will be able to grow their earnings, grow their dividends, and we think get an attractive return to us as shareholders.
So you touched on that these stocks are inflation linked. Are you able to explain how that linkage works?
Yeah, so that's one of the features of UK water regulation. In fact, inflation linkage, as we know, is a feature of infrastructure in general, but particularly for the UK water stocks. And the way it works is that UK inflation is rolled into their asset base each year. And what that means is the asset base grows with inflation, plus obviously the capital investments that are made. And as an investor, that way your investment in the asset base is protected. And in fact, when you look at the balance sheet, it varies by company, but something like Severn Trent, we think has about a 1.5 times leverage to equity value leverage to the UK inflation rates, which we think is attractive, particularly in the UK where inflation has been high on the sticky side. And needless to say, also inflation as the world moves forward is always a risk to all investors. So we like the inflation linkage in the UK water stocks.
So how do you look at these stocks from an ESG perspective?
Yeah. So the water stocks in the UK do screen very well for ESG. We think they're very strong ESG performers. So the way our investment team looks at ESG First of all, we look at the sustainability of the business model, which the water companies, through their investments in improving environmental outcomes, score highly there. We also look at the transition or energy transition score for the companies. So the water companies, both of our water companies have net zero targets in line with UK government policy. We also look very closely at the management and governance of the water companies, or all the companies we invest in. So the UK water companies, we meet annually with the chairs of the companies to run through the issues that might be and opportunities that might be around the company at the moment. But also we look very closely at the alignment and track record of the executive teams of the companies, of which we think both United Utilities and Severn Trent are very strong performers in those regards.
So what is the time horizon on the UK stocks within your portfolio?
Well, as I mentioned, one of the great things about the UK water sector is that we can have a lot of visibility, not just for the current 5-year regulatory period, but beyond that in terms of the investments the companies will make. So whilst our valuations are attractive for the water companies, we feel very comfortable as a long-term investor in the water space. Like all infrastructure investments, politics, regulation can change, the macro conditions in the UK can change. So part of our job is to obviously keep on top of those potential risks. But at the moment, we see the UK water sector as a relatively low risk way to play the infrastructure sector with added inflation protection as a benefit.
Thanks, Justin, for your insights on the water sector. Will be really interesting to watch these stocks over the next couple of months.
Thanks, Zoe. Great to be here.